Hi, I'm Teresa Duncan.
And I'm Kevin Henry.
Welcome to Chew on This.
We are excited to bring you our views of current topics in the dental industry and put a little different spin on them, giving you something to chew on.
If you need to jump off, be sure to check the show notes for links as well as how to get in touch with us.
And now, let's give you something to chew on.
And we are back with another edition of Chew on This. Kayvon, what's up?
Hey, how are you, Miss Duncan? You doing good?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it was, the industry has been in a little bit of a tither with some things going on with, clearinghouses and things like that. But we're not going to talk about that today because my stress level has been good so far.
Well, may I just say, you already talked about it and you enlightened so many people. And I really appreciate you coming on with me at Dr. Bicuspid to push that out very early in this whole thing. And I think you were ahead of the curve, my dear.
Yeah, I try. And it's nice to have an editor, you know a guy, like that Chicago thing. I knew a guy. So, but we are going to, and if you guys are wondering about that, we'll put links in there. But there has been just a little disruption of dental service in the industry of healthcare, Change Healthcare kind of not doing a great job with their cybersecurity. So, but again, as I said on another recording, my heart goes out to those people that are at that company because it cannot be fun right now. So, but you have discovered a trend, Kevin, and I'm all about trends. We are all about trends on Chew on This.
I feel like Columbus who discovered America, and it was like people are already like, hi, we're here. Hello. So that's how I feel like with this trend, to be perfectly honest with you. But luckily, I'm not on TikTok. Okay. We've talked about this, that is not my land. Trust me. But apparently mewing is a huge thing right now.
Mewing?
Well, mewing is big too. Trust me. I'm a big moo fan, big burger fan. Sorry, we just lost our PETA crowd there. But anyway. Mewing, and not just on Catterday,
Wait, M-E-W-I-N-G?
M-E-W-I-N-G, mewing is apparently a thing, as is, and I'm going to make sure I get this right here because we ran an article on this on drbicuspid.com, looksmaxxing as well.
Looksmaxxing, like maximizing your looks?
Exactly, with 2 X's, looksmaxxing.
Oh, 2 X's. I better pay attention.
Yeah, it's double X. So, we may have just been censored, but
as long as it's not triple X, because that's a whole different category, Kevin.
Well, there's also soft maxing, but we're not going to get into that. So, okay. But here's the thing that I'm trying to figure out is that we know there are lots of trends on TikTok and lots of suggestions from influencers and all this stuff. We'll talk about mewing in a minute, but looksmaxxing has more than 1 billion, with a B, billion mentions on TikTok, according to a story that came across from the UK in The Guardian. And if you don't know here's what looksmaxxing is. It is basically you are going to have surgeries, plastic surgery to refine your jawline and to give you a more chiseled look if you're a guy.
Really?
This would not be an example of looksmaxxing, just so you know. Very round here, very round.
Well, speaking as an appreciator of well-chiseled chins,
yes,
this is a good trend. I'm excited about this.
It is until you think about the oral ramifications, Teresa. That is where we're talking about this today.
Oh,
because apparently a lot of those jawbones get shaved down and everything else. And then all of a sudden you don't have the strength in there to hold those teeth together eventually and all that good stuff.
So they shave the bone?
Shave the jawbone down to make it, you get the fat sucked out, you shave the jawbone down, and then all of a sudden all these gums and everything that, are supported by your jaw, that whole facial thing. I know, I'm telling you.
I know. For those that are on audio only, Kevin and I are both touching our jaws and trying to make them more chiseled here.
You have a much more chiseled look. I just want to tell you.
When I do this?
Well, then your neck looks fantastic, by the way. I just want to make that clear as well.
Oh, I've been having a lot of problems with my neck. I feel like
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No, so seriously, I thought when you said the jawline, I really thought you were talking about sucking out the fat and like plastic, like a lift or something. I did not know you were talking about bone shaving.
There's actually some bone shaving that goes on with this as well, reportedly. Now, I have not been in a Looksmaxxing studio anytime recently, but as I read this,
there are limits to your research.
There are. I'm really not going that deep, to be perfectly honest. I'm not that invested in the story, but yeah, there is some shaving that goes on, and then some, there can even be a little chin implant if you need a little something going on here.
Really? Okay, so I'm wondering, does an oral surgeon do that? Does a plastic surgeon does that?
They say this is all done by a plastic surgeon, that there's almost a Looksmaxxing package that you can buy to make this all, just triangular, and then have that chin stick out there and have a little dimple you can put in if you want.
Oh, I have the dimple. It's a little, you can't really, there.
Oh, there it
is. Popping up there.
You have to emphasize the dimple there. But I don't. But yes.
Boy, for our audio listeners, you're really missing this whole facial massage I've just gave myself to make the dimple work.
You look glowing now. It's amazing.
Right. Well, the blood flow, So here's another thing though. And I'm kind of stunned by that, because if you shave the bone down so much, it becomes very weak. So one of the educators I watched and learned under was Dr. Carl Misch, who very, very well renowned implant surgeon. So. And I remember one of the stories he told in a class was when you lose. So this person had lost so much bone because the teeth were taken out and they never replaced the teeth. And so bone slowly dissolves when there's nothing in it, right?
Yeah.
So this person had their grandchild on their knee and they were bouncing the grandchild up and down. And normally you can take a hit to the chin, right? Like if somebody taps you, but this person, the bone was so thin because there's no teeth in there, so much resorption, it actually cracked her jawbone. When the kid jumped up and hit. And so he said, this is an example of when people don't have enough bone, even chewing can become very problematic and painful. And so if a plastic surgeon is going in there and shaving it down, that feels like malpractice if they don't know enough to do that.
I agree with you, because, it's funny because we've always talked about, like you said, losing a bone like from the teeth down, and this is from the jaw up, it almost sounds like. So it sounds like it could be kind of a perfect world hitting there, to be honest.
Wow. Okay. So Looksmaxxing, I'm going to have to look up, because I'm curious now, like how much that kind of surgery is.
That's a good question.
That's because you don't want to go to somebody. I mean, how do you get board certified in Looksmaxxing, right? So.
That's a really good question. I'm a certified looksmacker. I don't want to say it too much. But,
from the University of the Bronx or some weird, neighborhood academy or something. So, okay. So that involves the chin, that involves the jaw. Wow. So how big is this?
Oh, big. Well, it's big. I mean, if you're talking about a billion mentions on, TikTok, and it's funny, I'm at a conference in Texas today as we talk about this. And one of the things we were just discussing in our lectures were the viral influence that there is, and how much that trends can impact a patient whenever they walk into the practice, and how many patients are now saying, I saw this, I heard about this, and how much the dental professionals have to be knowledgeable about things like this, because you're going to get asked more than likely.
Wow.
But but going back to the mewing thing, I mean, I had honestly never heard of this, and then you said you've heard of this before. Whenever we were talking about this before the podcast.
Yeah, there's a Netflix show, movie called Open Wide, I think it is, and it's about this orthodontist who'd been talking about this for a long time, and he had experienced his colleagues kind of giving him a hard time for it and trying to discredit him about it. And so in a couple of Facebook groups I saw, well, I'm glad to see his work finally come up to, be noticed, because there is some validity. And then you had other dentists being like, what validity? I saw no validity. So I think it's a hot topic.
Yeah.
But what I think it speaks to, because it is very popular on Netflix, I think what it speaks to is there's people out there looking for ways to always improve their looks. I mean, you cannot go wrong by saying to somebody, I've got the solution to you looking sexy again.
Oh, absolutely.
You're going to make money, right? So
I agree.
But I don't know. I don't know if this is above board or not. So what do you know about mewing?
Well, I know mewing doesn't involve a cat. I had to check that. And secondly, it does not involve surgery. So, if we've been talking about Looksmaxxing and how, dastardly it can be, this is something that basically whenever you are mewing, You are pressing the tongue against the roof of the mouth in an effort to redefine your jawline.
But doesn't, okay. First of
So,
all, very good use of the word dastardly. I like that.
thank you. Thank you.
You don't hear that very often.
Well,
so
that's
kudos.
a master's degree paying off finally. So there you go. That's wonderful to hear.
Dr. B is so lucky to have you. So when you said that like, isn't your resting position for the tongue to be at the top of the mouth? Like,
yeah, but think about pressing, like really pressing it up in there.
Oh, pressing.
So if you're pressing it, then, and do this with us, listeners, please. If you're pressing your tongue up there, you kind of feel it gets a little tense back in there. So supposedly with mewing, this is like lifting weights or doing anything else, that you are training your jawline to be more firm, shall we say.
Okay, I've been doing this while you've been talking, and I can't help but feel like I'm turning into a bullfrog.
Well,
have you seen the pocket like kind of expanding when I'm doing this?
I'm actually seeing it look so much more firm now. It's amazing. I think,
This is why I love you, but you're so full of it, because I was looking like a bullfrog ready to like explode on a pond or something.
It's interesting if you do it and then you kind of think about what muscles you're using outside of just the tongue. And it's interesting in and of itself.
So have you been doing it? You're doing it right now. I just
did.
You just did it. Do it again.
Whenever, it looks like you swallowed something and you don't really want to like swallow it all the way. It's like in your mouth and it's something nasty.
Oh yeah, like you get stuck. Like
yeah, that's what you look like. But but if it helps,
I wonder if that's what happened. Like somebody got sick and said, "Oh, well, look at that! My chin looks
jawline is so much better now.
How can I do this without like puking all the time?" All right, that must be how it is.
So yeah, okay. If you are on the talk of tick, absolutely check out the mewing and the looksmaxxing and all these things, because I'm curious if this is what is being pushed as that alternative to just nature itself.
Well, and a quick Google search actually says that Reddit has a whole subreddit dedicated to mewing. So I can't wait to dig into that. Yeah. So I'm guessing it's a bunch of men wanting to look manlier. And kudos. I think we need manly men all around us at all times. Men. We did a show on Vikings. I was very happy about that last episode.
That's Vikings, right.
So there is a theme here. Wow. So, okay. So I'm going to actually ask my prodigy, my son Noah, who is 23, I think. Yeah. See, I have to think about it. He's 23.
Strong jawline on that one.
Oh, he is 23. Gosh, I forgot. Okay. I'm going to ask him if he's heard about this.
Yeah.
And to see, and if he looks at me like I'm crazy, then I'll know he's not on TikTok. I actually haven't asked. So I'll know he's not on TikTok, because I'm imagining that this is something that would be pushed to him because he's in that demographic. I would imagine that would be an algorithmic push.
But yet there's a Netflix documentary and there's a Reddit now. I mean, there's a whole new world all of a sudden that I'm been opened up to.
Yeah, you've got to check this out. So that's your homework, Kevin. You must check out the documentary. You must check out the subreddit, and then in about a month we should see an improvement. Right.
Hello, Teresa.
Yeah. I will be like mewing or looksmaxxing. Which one? Which one did you decide to go with, Kayvon? All right. So, well, let's tie in my story, which is
I've stolen the spotlight. I'm pushing it back toward you, my friend.
Oh, no, this is a fantastic spotlight. So what happens, though? Here's my tie-in. What happens if you become so stunning and but you're still dastardly? Because I like that.
Okay, as long as I still got the mustache to twirl, like I'm going to tie somebody up on the railroad tracks.
Exactly. So what happens if you become so devastatingly handsome that now you can use it to attract females to you? And then you become the subject of an article like this one that I found, which is Forensic Dentistry, When Teeth Tell a Deadly Tale. And it's all about how it can be used in crime. So even Ted Bundy was felled by identification by their
Oh,
teeth. Did you know that?
I did not. Tell me more.
Yeah. So this, but and honestly, so that was a kind of a weak tie-in, but there it is. So now we're going to talk about forensic dentistry and the tie-in there. And I want to give a shout out to Susan Richards of Doc's Education. She actually is a self-professed true crime fan. And so she wrote this series, 2-part series on the role of forensic odontology and doing identifications. And I thought this is just, it's really amazing. So first of all, we know that DNA can be used to identify people, and teeth, the pulp of teeth, if they don't have access to the dental records, still there's pulp of teeth that can be used to get DNA. So, I mean, they can do it with the whatever other materials that they have, but I forgot about that. Teeth have a huge repository of DNA in the pulp chamber.
Okay.
But there are a couple samples, haha, of how DNA was used to solve mysteries. So, for example, the mother of Nero, we're going back into ancient Rome here, Julia Agrippina, how's that for a last name?
It's a great name.
Sent soldiers to murder a potential romantic rival. So this is kind of funny. Like when you kind of done with someone, Kevin, did you just break up with them or did you send somebody to murder them?
Maybe I lived at the wrong point of history. That would have been fun. It's like, I'm done. Go get her. And
well, okay. So actually I read this incorrectly. Actually, they went to go murder a woman that was going after a man that she had. That's what it was.
Romantic rival.
Wow, this is true, like Discovery ID stuff. Yeah, so they were unable to recognize the dead woman's distorted feature when she wanted proof, but because her teeth were so distinctive, they were able to confirm her identity. Okay. So Paul Revere was able to identify a Boston physician who had gone along or who had been part of the famous ride in 1775. He was actually killed during that famous ride, one if by land, two if by sea.
We never hear about that.
What was it? The redcoats are coming, right? Is that what
the
they
British
said?
Are coming, the
British are coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the British are coming. So the body was unrecognizable until it was exhumed months later. And then Paul Revere identified this physician by a false tooth that he had actually placed for the doctor because Paul Revere had actually been a dentist. He had studied to be a dentist. So very interesting. And then the same thing for John Wilkes Booth, who was, of course, the assassin of President, not Kennedy. Geez, I'm going wrong centuries here. Lincoln. And so there was lots of rumors about him still being alive. So even conspiracy theories back then, Kevin, they dug up the body to be sure. That I didn't know. And because he had such an unusual jaw formation, the Booth family dentist was able to verify it. So very, very interesting. Now let's come into the current times. And I apologize if you're not a fan of true crime. I can't help it. This is the stuff that makes me gets me all excited because when you travel on the road like we do, true crime podcasts get you through the day.
There you go.
Okay. So are you familiar with John Wayne Gacy, Kevin?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, he was an Illinois man who dressed up as a clown. That was his side gig to do clown stuff. And he actually, his 33 victims were identified. I'm sorry, one of his 33 victims was identified from a single tooth because of the latest in forensic DNA and genealogy and all that kind of stuff. So there's only 5 of his victims remaining that are unidentified. And he's the one that had all the bodies in the basement. Remember that in the crawl space?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about Ted Bundy real quick. So you're familiar with Ted Bundy? He was the, I guess he was that. I didn't think he was that good looking, Kevin, but apparently
there are people who say though. I don't get the draw either, but I have heard that as well. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't do it for me, and so when they said, "Oh, he was the handsome serial killer," I was like, "Really? I don't know." So like if Chris Hemsworth were suddenly chopping people up, then I could say, "Okay,
well, bad now because
that's a handsome serial killer."
Someone who doesn't eat Looksmaxxing, that Hemsworth, I'll tell you. So.
He is the poster boy for Looksmaxxing. Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay. No argument there.
Yeah.
Okay. So brutal crime spree began in Pacific Northwest, went all the way down to Florida. He had a distinctive chipped tooth. And that is what sealed his fate.
Wow.
I did not know that. Yeah. So, but do you know who the first murderer was to earn a conviction based on forensic odontological evidence?
Ooh, no, I'm curious.
His name is Wayne Bowden up in Canada.
Yeah, sure.
A.
Hey.
Yeah, yeah, sure. A. He was actually nicknamed the vampire rapist, Kevin. So you can imagine that those teeth would be
Never a good nickname. I'm just going to tell you that's not on any level.
The local orthodontist made a cast of his teeth and demonstrated 29 similar points between the cast and a bite in one of the victims. And when you are called the vampire rapist, Kevin, what does that look like? I mean, so I need to try. That's my homework, because I'm like, first of all, in all of the years of watching horror movies, the vampires, of course, have a very distinctive bite. There is no repository of vampire bite marks.
I have so many questions right now just with the nickname itself, to be honest with you.
So are they just pointy teeth? Like, or is it because, when you bite an incisor, these surfaces, they form like a little line. Yeah. So when you're pointy teeth, it's just.
Yeah. That's what you always see. Like Halloween, it's just two little poke marks,
There was no vampire in Halloween. That's very disappointing that you bring up Halloween and there was no vampire. I meant
around the holiday Halloween.
Okay, I think, I thought you meant the movie. That was like very disappointing. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, so let's end this with a little bit of a perv here. Okay. Yeah, Reverend George Burrows during the Salem witch trials.
Of course.
We're going way back because there's lots of stuff going on back there. Brilliant. He was arrested for recruiting local girls into the dark arts. And that's actually, so shout out to Susan Richard. This is great. Dark arts. I mean, this is fantastic. So the only evidence was bite marks he allegedly left on some of the victims. And he was convicted and then hung after the prosecution. I don't mean to laugh. After the prosecution pried the Reverend's mouth open to compare his teeth to the marks on the girls. So I've watched a lot of Law and Order. I have never seen any of the lawyers actually pry someone's teeth open to look at it. So we've come a long way in the judicial system.
I mean, now I'm curious, do they do that in the morgue? I mean, is that part of the whole gig,
Look, this dude was alive when they did it. He was convicted and hung after they pried his mouth open to compare his teeth.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was after he was hung.
Oh, yeah. Afterwards, they do. Of course. Yeah, they do casts and all that. But they actually took this dude and, I'm sure a couple people held him down and they were open wide. And
that had to be. Yeah, I'm sure there wasn't any jaw pain inflicted there.
He's like, I'm mewing. It's okay. I'm mewing.
Hey, hold on, folks. The jawline. Whoa.
So basically, the human dentition is as unique as fingerprints and can be used in a lot of different cases. Now, I will say that there have been cases where it's actually been proven to be not accurate. And so it is estimated that about 26 people at the time of the writing, which was last year, have been convicted on bite mark evidence and then have been exonerated. So because, the Innocence Project actually came through and did some back and forth and did all that. But so if you are in jail, and it is because if you're listening to this podcast in jail, fantastic. You are very resourceful, first of all.
Yeah, thank you.
If you were convicted because of bite marks, you might want to find out if the Innocence Project can help you out with that, because apparently that is one of their initiatives. So,
wow. That is very interesting. And I'm trying to think back, because you mentioned the teeth and the DNA. I'm trying to remember if there was a killer that extracted all the teeth from his victims to try to hide chopped off the fingers and then pulled all the teeth to try to hide who the victims were. I'm trying to remember that now.
So there have been killers, and I apologize if this is too graphic. There have been killers who have actually chopped off the head and the hands to prevent identification. So there have been serial killers that have done that. So I would imagine, anything identification, but everybody nowadays seems to have a tattoo. So what are you going to do there? So you got to find somebody who has never been to a tattoo parlor, perfect teeth, nothing identifiable. It must be so hard to be a serial killer out there looking for the perfect.
It's gotten harder. That's a tough business. It has gotten harder for sure. You're like, oh, she's got a butterfly. I can't do that.
Yeah. So you stay away from the tattoo parlors, or you just, anybody walking out, you're like, all right, lucky day. I can't hang with that. But it is amazing, though, in all seriousness, that our little industry
Mhm.
is just everywhere. I mean, it's just everywhere. Like, who would have known the big role of using teeth for identification? I need to mention this because this is super serious and super amazing, is that dental records have been used for years in disaster recovery and identification.
For sure.
So 9/11, most recently the Maui fire, people have been identified based on that. And you can, even if you're very interested in this, there's actually a career path. So as a hygienist, as a dentist, you are able to go and further your education in forensic odontology and actually be a part of this. There's volunteer groups all over the country who roll out in response. I think it's called DMORT, dental
Yes.
mort.
Yep,
Mort
you're right.
something. Yeah, it's a DMORT. And basically anytime there's a emergency, you can get dispatched to help out with all of this. And they need the help. So if that's something that is calling out to you, I say look it up.
I know a lot of young people become interested in forensics, and I think it's becoming a little bit more because, as you said, the true crime podcasts and all of those things that are out right now. So, but absolutely, well, it's needed. It sure is, because unfortunately, tragedies keep happening, and we need these services.
Yeah. Well, and it's wild because I always have thought, my dad and I have always talked about this, that he always thought I was going to go into criminology or investigative work, because even from a young age, I don't think this was bad parenting, but I'm sure a case could be made. But I would read all sorts of serial killer stuff. Like, I knew so much about the Charlie Manson murders and all of those historic crimes, what's that guy's name who the Zodiac killer? Like, I was all up in that. And part of me, I think why I love true crime so much is there's just so much of the human emotion involved all around. And to find somebody would be just amazing. But as luck has it, dentistry is where I landed. But,
And we're thankful
maybe in
for
another,
that.
well, thank you. But maybe in another time and place, I could have done something different. So, like, Kevin, I know that you would have loved to have been this amazing, like, Hall of Fame Pulitzer Prize winner,
With the
writer.
jaw,
Yes. So,
yes, but one of my favorite movies is Mr. Destiny. I don't know if we've ever talked about that.
no,
and
we haven't.
that little light where the path would have been different and how life would have changed. But yeah, a lot of what ifs out there. But I'm thankful I'm right where I am. Hey, all good.
Well, I don't know. I always thought you would be a very good WWE manager. Like, on the way into the ring, you're just like, like shouting your guy up.
Such a good bad guy. I'm just telling you. I would have been.
I agree.
Yes, I would have been that guy sliding the brass knuckles into Logan Paul. Absolutely. That absolutely would be me.
Throwing the steel chair into the arena. I can see it.
What? Yeah.
That dastardly Kevin.
That would have been the nickname too. Dastardly Dean throwing another chair in the ring, folks.
There you go. I think you could have been Mr. Henry. Here comes Mr. Henry. Here he comes down the ramp.
My goodness. Those facial features are outstanding. He must be mewing.
I can't take you on as a client with that jawline. Please go back and fix that, please.
Sorry, Mr. Hemsworth. No, you're not coming on board here, buddy. Keep moving.
You send Hemsworth over to my school of mewing. I'll take care of him. So, all right, dear listeners, if the mewing wasn't enough for you, then we went into the serial killer and true crime stuff. So today, if you hung in with us, you are the true fan of Chew on This. Anything else, K-Dog?
No, I think we've covered the gamut today. Although, we kind of we went up to Canada just for a minute, but other than that, I think we stayed in the good old U.S. today. How about that?
We did. Well, no, we went to ancient Rome.
Oh, we did. You're right.
We did. We went to ancient Rome. So,
Julia.
But that's us. We're all over. There is no place in this world that you can't find.
Wow. I'm very excited to talk Greenland on our next episode. It'll be fantastic. So.
All right, you. Okay, dear listeners, we always appreciate that you share your time to laugh along with us. Later.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Chew on This. We hope you laughed and learned a little.
Check out the show notes for any links we mentioned, and don't forget to give us a rating on your podcast app. Feel free to drop us a comment on social media or by email if you have any suggestions for future topics.
We'll be back in about 2 weeks. See you then.